the NFL taking the break. So we have our chance to dig in to the junior varsity of the pigskin world in Lost Wages, Nevada, the stage for the made-for-TV matchup, SEC versus Big Ten. Yeah, that's awkward. Don't seem like they're a Big Ten team, but hey, what the hell? You think cold weather, you think nasty December football, you think the University of Southern California. The USC LSU matchup, did you watch it? Sunday night? No? Somebody named Woody Marks. I like the name. It's a good name. Woody Marks scored a 13-yard touchdown run with 8 seconds left, pinballing off LSU defenders. And that was enough to give SC, coming into that game, preseason ranking number 23 overall, SC gets a 27-20 win over number 13 LSU on a Sunday night in Sin City. And it was the star of the bowl game last year, Miller Moss. No Moss on him for the Trojans. 378 yards passing against a big, badass LSU defense with a Southeastern Conference. Had a touchdown. Now, to be fair, SC benefited from the generosity of the Bengal Tigers, benefiting from a rather ill-timed targeting penalty with 18 seconds left in the game after a pass play. There was a targeting penalty tacked on, and that set up Woody Marks for the winning score, the opener for both teams. But the better story is in the losing locker room, and that is where? Longtime college football coach Brian Kelly, unloaded, unhinged Brian Kelly, not happy with his team's performance, and he let the world know, let's go to the audio tape.
And we're sitting here again. Talking about the same things. About not finishing when you have an opponent in a position to put them away. But what we're doing on the sideline is feeling like the game's over. And I'm so angry about it that I got to do something about it. I'm not doing a good enough job as a coach. And I got to coach him better because it's unacceptable for us not to have found a way to win this football game. It's ridiculous.
All right, so he went on and on, unhinged. First time I've been here, and I'm angry at my football team. Now, he did blame himself a little bit at the end, but let us discuss the question. Do you find Brian Kelly's rant, and you heard a good chunk of it there, do you find his rant about LSU's football problems significant? So I've got War Tribunal, bartender, and horse and buggy. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make the Voodoo Boogaloo, which is what LSU needs to find. They need to find the Voodoo Boogaloo. Now, to answer the question, do you find Brian Kelly's rant about LSU football significant? I'm nodding my head. Yes, you can't see me. If you can, you're a stalker. Brian Kelly has been a coach in Baton Rouge. This is his third year now. So it's not like your first year you say, okay, give him a little break there. Second year, okay, you're still adjusting. 3 years in, and I didn't hear the fake Cajun accent at all. I guess he's lost that. But there has been one constant to Brian Kelly and what he has provided in Baton Rouge, and that is every season, 3 years running now, game one in the loss column. Game one in the loss column. Game one in the loss column. Now, things were supposed to be different. It's one thing. The last couple of years, LSU, if you haven't paid attention, they lost to Florida State, much to the joy of Jed, who fled in the Sunshine State, our caller, big Florida State suck-up. But that's an acceptable loss. Now, the first, if I remember a couple of years ago, it was like a one-point game between LSU and Florida State. But last year was a rout. So back-to-back losses to the Seminoles. Now you're like, okay, now you're playing a neutral site game against a, in air quotes, soft West Coast team deemed below your standards, being from the Southeastern Conference. Even though SC is now a Big Ten team, they're not really a Big Ten team, right? I mean, they're in name only, they're a Big Ten team. They're not deemed Big Ten. Not yet. They got to earn their stripes in that conference. And so this performance by LSU is worthy of a war tribunal. High crimes and misdemeanors. the way they lost, allowing SC to slice up your defense in the final seconds, and then the mental boo-boos on top of that. And for Brian Kelly, it's fool me once. Right? The old line, fool me once, shame on you. Right? Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, though. What's the old line go through? Fool me 3 times, shame on both of us. As Kelly has a habit, going back to his days at Notre Dame, of pointing fingers. And typically, he doesn't start pointing at himself. He typically starts pointing at other people, which doesn't go over well. Now, full disclosure, watching this game, that is a poorly coached LSU team. And there's an old line in the coaching world that when you see a team play like this, you see this type of performance, either you're correcting it or you're allowing it to happen. And so Brian Kelly's allowing this to happen. That's on him. It's not on anyone else other than him. He's the one that's gone out. They have all this big budget to pay for players to come in. It's pay to play in college football these days at a school like LSU. Now, on the other side, what does this USC win over LSU do for Coach Lincoln Riley, the much embattled Lincoln Riley? So for him, this is a visit to the bartender, a trip to the old oxygen bar, because he gets that purified oxygen right up his nostrils, giving him a brief respite. And I'll tell you why, because entering this year, now I have some friends of this show that do not want their name heard on the radio, but they claim, I don't know if these people are telling me the truth or not, they're pretty tied in over at the SC program, and to say that Lincoln, things were not going great, teetering on the brink. The vultures starting to circle overhead. They were starting to do the math on how much it would take to get rid of Lincoln Riley. Now, that does not end because of a win over LSU, but when hired, just for some comparative sake referencing, when he was hired and started out in 2022, Lincoln Riley was billed as the Messiah and the savior out of the Dust Bowl. Who would leave Oklahoma? That's an iconic program in itself, to come to the West Coast, to come to California, and it was going to be a return to glory. Everything all the boosters at SC wanted, and the early results have been more fluff than substance. That's just the reality. There's a lot of razzmatazz, but in the end, the first couple of products that USC put out under Lincoln Riley, they have been comparative to that of a cream puff. Now USC is energized. They're feeling good about themselves. People are going to be kissing their ass. They beat LSU, a neutral site game in Vegas. They've got another easy game, you would say, against Utah State coming up before they have to go take on teams like Michigan and Wisconsin in the Big Ten schedule. So that's when it's going to get real. It doesn't really get real now. It's about to get real following another soft opponent in Utah State. Now, last word here. We pivot away from the LSU-USC game. We head to another event that took place over the weekend, and that would be based in South Carolina. We had a Maller meet and greet months back in Charleston, but across the state. And everywhere I went in South Carolina, I didn't see a lot of Gamecock stuff. I did see a lot of orange. People love Clemson. Love them some Clemson. Right? Love them some Clemson. Clemson had a measuring stick game with Georgia. And at halftime, we were watching this game. I think it was 6-0, if I remember correctly. I was watching with half an eye. 6-0 Clemson was down to Georgia. But they're right in the game. It's one-score game. Touchdown, extra point, you take the lead. Then they had to play the second half. How did that go? Don't ask. Carson Beck and the Bulldogs eating Clemson's lunch as they pounded them in the second half, outscoring them just about every possible way. 34-3 was the final. That's a 28-3 outscore in the second half for the boys who represent the Bulldogs over the Tigers. So, with that said, how much trouble is Dabo Swinney in at Clemson? All right, so this another one of these examples here, getting the pulse of the people. This is another one of those things where it depends on the deep pockets of the Clemson booster. And this is next level deep. It's not like he's safe by any means. Financially, Dabo is safe, but realistically, we've seen at other schools like Texas A&M, for example, if you want to get rid of a ball coach bad enough, you will get rid of the ball coach bad enough. And so Dabo Swinney's current contract, and I did a double take when I saw this, it contains a buyout clause worth $60 million. That is in this year, 2024. And then in 2025, it goes down. It's only $57 million. Okay, that's a bargain. In 2025, it's 2026. It's actually $60 million this year and next. It's 2026. It goes down by $3 million. So either way, it's a massive bonanza. It is the Powerball lottery for Dabo Swinney if he is removed as coach of Clemson. Nevertheless, the odds are not zero that happens. Now, you're going to have more performances like we saw against Georgia on the big stage for Clemson for this to happen. But there is a path in the multiverse where this takes place, and Dabo Swinney is the horse and buggy of college football coaches. You hear these stories when the automobile came around, it became mainstream. There were people that just didn't believe in the automobile. They wanted their horse. They knew what they had in the horse. They knew how much it cost to feed the horse. They didn't want to worry about trying to find a gas station. They loved the horse and the buggy, right? And that would appear to be Dabo Swinney. In a world, think about it like the internet. In a world with 5G high-speed Wi-Fi, Dabo is using AOL dial-up is what he's using, right? Welcome, you've got mail. And he has avoided the transfer portal, even though Clemson, by all accounts, can come up with the money. It's not that they don't have the money to pay the players and play the same game that Alabama and Oklahoma and LSU and all these other schools are playing. They can play the same game. It just goes against his sensibilities. It goes against his old world sensibilities that he does not want to keep up with the times. And there's a bit of Darwinism involved in this, right? You either adapt to the new environment in college football, or you get a check for what, $60 million in terms of a buy. That sounds like a win-win situation to me. I don't know about you, but Clemson right now behind the eight ball and a nice offense. I think I could have called a better game on my video game system than the Clemson coaching staff did against Georgia. Yeah, but Georgia's really good. Come on now, give him a break. Okay,